Hello everyone, welcome to Coding Techniques. In this video we are going to see how a shrink header actually works. So what actually we are going to do out here is that we are going to shrink this part. So what we are going to do right now is when we scroll at the top, when this list will scroll at the top, then what will happen is this chart or this statistics will shrink slowly and gradually, and at the end when it reaches the top, then you will only see the ion segment along with the ion header, and this statistics part will disappear. And when you scroll to the bottom again, then it will get the visibility and you can see the same design again. So this is what we are going to achieve right now, and it can also be called, it is like the opposite of expansion of an header. So you can apply both the things. So in order to achieve that, we have to do certain tasks. So let's start with that. But before starting, I want to tell you that if you are watching this video for the first time, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button if you like this video. Alright, and if you want to create this design, then you can watch my previous video whose link is already there in the description. You can just copy the code and build your own application till now where I am right now, and then you can continue, or you can just see the design which I am going to, or you can just see the feature of shrinking header and apply it in your design as you like. Alright, that's completely up to you guys. So this is part 3 of our COVID-19 Plasma Milaap application. So let's get started with this. So first of all, what I'll do is I'll create a component, but before creating a component, I'll create a module where I'm going to declare the component. So Ionic G module, and this is a shared component, and I'll name it as components, not a shared one. I'll name it components because that is a proper way of identifying that this is a shared component. So now you can see this module is created. Let's check it out. Alright, we have a components folder, and within that we have components.module.ts. That's great. It's working. So it's coming up. Now within this, what am I going to do? I'll just remove this module, and instead of that I'll create a component this time, and this component will be created within the components folder, and I'll name it as shrink header in this manner and hit enter. Alright, you can see this component is created and I can see it out here. Now how do we connect this component with our home page? Now there are two ways. First is using this components.module.ts. Out here I can declare it in the declaration, and then I have to export it up, and then I can use it. But I'll show you the second method first. So the second method is basically go to the home module, and out here in the declaration part you can simply pass the shrink header component, and you can import it up. So it is imported nicely. Alright, and we do not have any error. Now I can simply use it in my code. So where I'm going to use it? Well, I'm going to use it above the iron grid. So app shrink header, you can see the suggestion is coming up, which means that this is nicely imported and we are good to go with this by using the second method. Now there is another method of doing that, but what is the difference between the two? I'll just tell you right now. At first let me tell you what is the difference between doing this way or the other way is to pass it out here in the shrink header. Remember, pass it in one place only, it's better, and then I have to export it so that I can use it in whichever page I like, or in component also you can use it in this manner. Alright, if you're using it in module, you just have to export it, it's mandatory, otherwise you won't be able to use it anywhere. Now what is the difference between this method and the other method? So basically the thing is that when you're using only one component, then it's better to pass it in that particular page module, because you're not going to use this component in anywhere else. So it's better to pass it out here, and you don't have to use any other module, shared module, for that particular single component. But if you have multiple components that can be used in this page or some other places, or if you have to use this shrink header in more than one page, in both the scenarios you can have this shared component module, which is components.module in our case, and then you can use this module in the page modules to access that up. So in this case I can directly use this shrink header in the home page, which I have already shown you, but I'll be following up the module. I'll be using the shared module, because if you are building this full-fledged application, then you must be using one or more more than one component, so it's better to have it in the shared module. All right, now out here in this example, in this whole series of COVID-19 application, I won't be using more than one component, so I can directly pass out here also, but still I'll prefer to go with the components module. So I've told you where to use what. If you still use it, then also it's not harmful, but that won't be an appropriate way if you're using it only for one component. So I'll simply hide this, or I can remove this also. So just to show you guys how this components shared module actually works, I'm doing this part, so don't worry, you can just follow the things which I've told you just right now. You just keep this components module and you can directly have this in the home module. I'm sure you're getting it. Now you can see this shrink header component is showing up out here, and now we need to work with that. So let's do it. So in the design, I'll not do anything. Instead, I'll simply pass the content which I will be having within that. So I'll use the ng content, and that's it. Within this, it will hold all this content. All right. And in our TypeScript, we are going to work with a lot of things. At first, let's start with a property, with an input property, which we are going to have scroll area. Scroll area will be the property name of type any, and then we will have another property, but before that let me just import it up. So in this property I'll be having the header height, and I'll name it the same, and this will be of type number. Now why I'm using this too is because this header height will define the area, how big the header should be. Alright, this header, and the scroll area is used so that the component will listen to the scroll event. Whenever we scroll, it will listen to that event and resize accordingly. Alright, so that is why I'm using this too. Alright, now how do we actually use it up? Well, that's a good question actually. Now we will go to our home page. Let me just clear everything which we don't need. Even HTML also we don't need. Now we need to go to our home HTML, and out there in the app shrink header tag, I'm going to pass the scroll area because this is an input property out there, so I can use it as an attribute to this tag. And then I will also have the header height, which I will pass as 170 as it is a number. I think that will be good. And in the scroll area, well, I need to point to this ion content because this is the scrolling part. So out here, what am I going to do? I'll pass an identifier called my content, and this identifier I'm going to pass out here, my content. So it will determine that which part it needs to scroll. Now this ion content will still not scroll. If you just try it out here, you can see nothing is happening out here, because in order to listen to the scroll event, we have to use something called scroll events, which is an attribute of ion content. You can see out here in the suggestion it is coming up. So we have to set this to true in order to work with that. Alright, now this is set up nicely. Now what I'll do, within the app shrink header, I am going to have all this ion list and the ion grid. I'll pass within this. Alright, and now I'll go to the homepage as CSS, and out here I'll just pass the ion grid popover within the app shrink header tag in this manner. And in the app shrink header, what am I going to do? I'll pass display to block, because if I don't pass it, it won't show up the design properly. Alright, now we can go to our app shrink header component and let's work with it. So what all things do I need to have? So I'll also declare another property called new height or new header height, let's say that in that manner, of type any. We'll be using that up, but before that we need to inject few elements. Our first one will be the element ref to reference to that particular element, and now this is imported from Angular core. The next thing which I'll have is the public renderer2. So this is used to render the changes which we are just applying. Now let's start working with it. So I'll do everything within the ng after view in it. Otherwise this will create problems. It will not work and it will give me an error, because after the view is init out here, after the view is initialized and we can see, then only the changes will work. Now out here I'm going to use this dot renderer dot set style. This is the method which I'm going to use out here. Now this dot element dot native element, I'll call this, and out there I'm going to work with the height. I'm going to pass this dot header height, which is the input property out here, and then we are going to apply the height which is defined in our home page, that is 170, right? Now I'll work with this scroll area dot ion scroll. So we'll use the ion scroll dot subscribe and it will trigger an event. Now within this event, let me first console it up to see whether this works or not. So I'll open the console, and if I am just making some change, you can see the event is getting triggered. Alright, so this is working. That's great. So we have detail, and then within that we have scroll top. Alright, that's fine. Now what am I going to do? Out here I'm going to apply a lot of functionalities, but before doing that, what I'll do, I'll also create another property for the subscription part. So scroll sub of type subscription, and we will import it from RxJS. Alright, now why I'm using this up, because out here I'm subscribing to this scroll event, right? So if I'm subscribing to it, that means I have to unsubscribe at certain point of time. In order to do that, I will be using on destroy interface. I'll inherit it up in this manner, and then I'm going to use it out here. The function within that will be ng on destroy, and out here I'm going to check if this dot scroll sub exists, then this dot scroll sub dot unsubscribe function will be called. So remember always to unsubscribe at the end when it is not in use. Alright, now out here what am I going to do? I will have a function resize header, and I'll pass the event out there. Now we are going to work with this function, which is our main function actually, to work with our design. So within this function, what am I going to do? I will work with something called DOM controller, which is used to modify this particular styling and which will give me the access to this particular DOM. So I'll be using public DOM CTRL DOM controller, and it is imported from Ionic Angular. So this is an Ionic component. Now I can use it out here. So I'll be using this dot DOM CTRL dot write because we want to make the changes out here. And within that, what am I going to do? I will initialize this dot new header height will be equals to this dot header height which we have passed, alright, minus event dot detail which we have already seen dot scroll top. Alright, so whatever the height out here it is, we will just subtract it from the scroll top value so that it can shrink up. Now if this dot new header height is less than 0, it might happen that the scroll top value is more than the header height and it will get to lesser than 0 in that. So when we encounter that, what am I going to do? I'll just set this dot new header height to be 0. I don't want to scroll anymore. I don't want it to change anymore. Alright, and once this is done, what I'll do, this dot renderer dot set style, I'll set this style to that particular element. I'll set the height to this dot new header height plus pixels in this manner. So in this manner I'll set the new height out there. Alright, so let's try it out now. So if I scroll up, okay, this is going up, but at the back side I can still see the value, which is not good. And if I see the console, let me just console dot detail dot scroll top. Instead of just passing the complete event, I'll be passing this up. Alright, now let's try it again. I'll scroll up and you can see the value is showing up out here, which is actually greater than 170. Right, now this is moving ahead, but I can still see that, and if I come down, still that is showing up. Alright, now how do I fix this? Well, out here I know what is the header height. If I try to change this one, say like if I just uncomment this up, then what will happen? Let's just check it out. So I'll just scroll up, still nothing is working. Alright, now what I'll do, I will not do anything out here again. I'll jump to my homepage HTML because this is something different. If you might have used a simple thing out here, then it could have worked pretty nicely, but I'm using the iron list, iron grid out there, and then I'm using the popover kind of stuff out there, so it is little tricky. Alright, and to achieve that, what am I going to do? In the iron content, I'm going to work with the iron scroll. So I'll use the iron scroll and I'll be using this function, and let me declare it out here. Alright, now why I'm doing this is because I need to get access to this iron grid and the iron list, because I'm going to scroll that also. So I'm going to work with the height of it, because the padding and margin which I'm giving out here is the actual major problem. So I'm going to pass this padding and margin dynamically, and I'm going to change that as we just scroll it. Alright, so what I'm going to do right now is, well, this part is little tricky as I told you earlier also, so just focus on it nicely. Now I'll simply comment this padding bottom and margin top, and I'll pass it out here to the iron grid. I'm going to pass style dot padding bottom dot pixel, and I'm going to pass the value 120. Well, similarly I'll just copy this up, and to the iron list I'll paste it and change this to margin top to -120. Alright, let me just break it down a bit. Alright, now as you can see out here, we can hardly see any change. Alright, but that means still this is working nicely. Now what I'll do, I will pass a property out here which I'll just declare called new height, and I'll subtract it from here, new height. Let me first declare it, otherwise it will give me the error always, which I don't want. So new height will be initialized to 0. Now why am I doing this is because whenever we are scrolling, I want to change the height of it, alright, so that it won't create a problem, because the padding and margin I have given it on my own, which is creating actually the problem. So now whenever this height is initialized to some value, whenever we are scrolling and it is initialized to some value, the padding will get reduced, and at the same time I want to increase the iron list margin top, because I want to scroll it to the top and I don't want it to be visible. So that means the value of it will be pretty high. I don't want it to be higher, so I'll divide it by 2 to just scroll it gradually. I don't want it to be speedily moving up and just disappearing. I don't want that also. It needs to be pretty smooth, and that is why I'll divide it by 2 out here. Alright, now let's work with the iron scroll which I passed out here. Now out here at first I'll check if event dot detail dot scroll top, and I think it's getting too big. Let me pass it in a constant. Value will be equals to this value, and if this value is greater than, let's say, value 40, then I'm going to increase the new height by 5 pixels. That will be my first condition. Let's check it out. Now if I scroll up, alright, you can see that it is getting disappeared, but it is not coming up again, right? Which is not good, because I'm not setting this to 0 again. So if the value is greater than 40, then I'll set it to this one. Otherwise I'll set this dot new height to 0. Let's check it now. So if I try to scroll again, it got disappeared, and if I'm coming down again, it is coming up. So it is working nicely now, right? Now what will happen if I scroll quickly in this manner? If I just throw it, and then you can see this is not working properly. So in that scenario, why this is not working? Because the value which I have is 372, which is pretty greater. Now there is a minimum threshold value. Even I can just check it out here also, console.log, and I'll log this value. Now the threshold value which I have seen is around 180. Alright, so if I pass this value, if I check if value is greater than 180, and at that particular point my new height should be less than or equals to 25. So what I'm doing right now is I'm checking if the value of this scroll top is greater than 180. That is first condition, and the second one is my new height should be lesser than or equals to 25, because when I'm scrolling smoothly, then the height will be more than 25. You can check it out there. But if I scroll it pretty quickly in this manner, then this height will be something around less than 25, or around equals to 25, which we can check it out here also. What I'll do, I'll simply copy this up, or I can pass it directly out here also, this dot new header height. Alright, we can see the value. So in that particular condition, what am I going to do? I'll set this dot new height and I'll increment it to 50. So plus equals to actually means that, I just forgot to tell you if you do not know about it, this dot new height will be equals to this dot new height plus 5. Similarly out here also. So this is the actual meaning of doing this, and this is the short form of doing the same stuff. So you can just remember in this manner. I'll keep it commented out here for you guys who do not know about it. Alright, let's check this out again. So now I'll scroll it. This is working. Alright, if I scroll quickly, okay, this is not saved. Let me just save it and I'll try it again. Alright, so it has rendered again, and let me try it again. So I'll just scroll up smoothly. It is working nicely. If I come down, still it is fine. Now if I'll scroll quickly, just focus out here. Alright, still it is fine or not. I think I need a bit more. Little more maybe needed. Let me just check the value of it first. So the value is something around, okay, let me just clear it and try it again. I'll just scroll up. Okay, let me just scroll down and then I'll quickly scroll up. The value is something around 60. Alright, so with value of 25 it is not working as expected. So I'll pass the values, say around 65 will be good. I think you can try with these values whichever fits in your design. Okay, let me try it with 65. Alright, now if I scroll up, it's disappearing. If I scroll quickly, it's still disappearing. If I scroll smoothly also, still it is working as expected. Now one thing I want to show you, if I scroll up and if I click on donors, you can just see the transition. It's pretty smooth, right? And if I scroll down in this manner and if I click on it, still it is working fine. So everything is working as expected, which is pretty good thing. Sometimes it happens, and let's try it in different phone also, whether this works fine out there also or not. If I scroll up, it's disappearing. You can just see the transition, right? If I click on it, just look at the transitions, the smoothness, it's looking awesome. Look at this. That's work. I actually liked it actually when I was doing this. Let's try quickly. So if I scroll quickly, still it is working fine out here also. Let's try it in Galaxy S5. Scroll smoothly, working. Scroll quickly, working. The last thing I want to try it in Nexus also, working. That's fine. So one tip I want to give you, if you have a smaller list, say like we have a list of say like 4 to 5 items, then it will create some issue. I'll show you quickly what issue am I talking about. So let's say out here I have only 4 records. Sorry, not out here, in the request, because this is the first one which we are going to access. So let's have 4 records only. Let's try it now. So now if I scroll up, you can see it is getting shaked. It is not coming up nicely, right? And in order to resolve that, in the home page, what I'll do, in the home page CSS, on the iron string header after display to block, I'll pass overflow to hidden. Now let's try it again. You can see no overflow is showing out here right now in the Android phones, but if I try it in iPhone, you can see it has already started. You can see the problem is showing up out here, which is not good because the event is also getting triggered. If you check it out here, so many times the event is getting triggered. If I do it, you can see it is a never-ending loop, which will affect our performance of the application. So in order to resolve that, you have to use this shrinking header when you have a bigger list, not when you have a smaller list. So remember that. So with this, I will uncomment this up and now it will work fine. Alright, now that is why the DOM controller, or whenever we are modifying the DOM, you should always remember that it should be useful. It should be very much important, then only just do it. Otherwise don't do that, because it's going to hamper the performance of the application if you just modify this for fun and not doing it purposely or very nicely. So it needs to be done very carefully. Alright, so now we can see this is working again nicely, no bouncing effect out here. So this design is working perfectly. We have successfully applied the shrinking header part in our COVID-19 application, and which is looking pretty smooth and awesome out here. Alright, that's great. So I'm loving it. So with this, I'll wrap up this video out here and see you guys in the next video. Till then, stay tuned to the channel, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done that, and please hit the like button if you really like the video, and do share the video and comment below if you don't like. If you like something, please comment. I read all the comments and I reply to that. So thanks for watching.